All right, for more now, we are joined by SABC COO Ian Plaatjes right here in the studio. Thank you so much, Ian, for your time this afternoon. This is not the first time that yourselves, the SABC and MultiChoice, are at loggerheads, over a World Cup, and might I add, days before World Cup. We saw this with the Rugby World Cup, and we are seeing it now again. You accused MultiChoice at the time of bullying tactics. What's at the source of this decision, this latest decision?
Thanks, Anati. So at the source is, this time around, the price. Previously, with the World Cup Rugby, they never responded to us. They did at the last minute. This time around, we can't agree on the price. We do believe that the price is exorbitant, and we just cannot pay that price at all.
So what makes it difficult is when you look at the two statements, and I'm going to read some of what MultiChoice says and what the SABC says. So MultiChoice says you are the one who pulled out of the sub-licensing broadcast rights negotiations. You, in fact, rejected their proposal last night, and that they said that they'd actually significantly reduced commercial terms. You, on the other hand, are saying that you've been disadvantaged due to the non-affordable sub-licensing fees and restrictive conditions imposed by MultiChoice. I mean, there is, of course, public sentiment in some quarters that say that SABC is playing victim and that there is a lack of planning on your part and a lack of leadership on your part. And when you do not communicate those monetary figures, it is very hard to know where, your statement comes from.
Okay, and let's just correct their statement. There's no relaxation of their terms. It's just a lowering of the previous offer that they put on the table. The rest of the restrictive terms is still part of their offer. We have not moved on the price from the time that we started the discussions with them, because that is not just the affordable price, but we think it's not a fair price. It's more than what the market value is, but that's the max that we could afford. We have not moved on that. Yes, they have come down by a certain margin from their previous offer, and we did not walk out of the talks. Yesterday we told them we can't accept their final offer, which is just not affordable. It's just not practically affordable. So,
during the Rugby World Cup negotiations, what we saw was, of course, the SABC saying you cannot afford, therefore, millions of South Africans would be affected and would not watch the Rugby World Cup. This is the same situation that we are now seeing with Cricket World Cup. But sponsors came to the rescue. Are we going to be seeing something similar? Are you in conversations with any funders, potential funders?
No, slight difference. With the Rugby World Cup and both this, we do believe that any sub-license clause and cost is more than what we would pay if we were to buy directly from the source. Okay, so we are paying more than what we should be paying for it. The difference between the rugby, it was not so much the cost at the final end of the day. We accepted their cost. They never came back to accept it. This is completely different. We've never accepted their cost at all on this one. There's no funder and no party that's going to come to the rescue on this, because it's not a practical cost. It's exorbitant.
So when we talk about, just the issues of broadcasting and who has those rights, what are we talking about here? And why is the SABC not in the forefront, particularly given your mandate to the South African public?
So if you look at the ICASA regulations that was published in March 2021, it enables MultiChoice to actually buy exclusive rights from the rights holder. And so it is the sporting codes that would decide whether they want to do an exclusive deal, or if they would do best practice. That's what is done around the world. They will actually separate those rights out and unbundle those rights and say, MultiChoice, you can buy your subscription-based license, all the other free-to-air channels, you can buy a free-to-air license, and there's obviously digital and so forth as well. In South Africa, the regulations enables them to buy wholesale and then to award that or pass it on with additional restrictive conditions or with additional costs.
One thing is clear, that this is a very convoluted area and point of discussion. I mean, we saw following your agreement with MultiChoice in as far as the Rugby World Cup was concerned, eMedia taking both you, the SABC, and MultiChoice to court. Just talk to us about what the area of contention there was.
Okay, so it is sub judice, so I can't speak about that. What I will speak about, though, is the current one and transpose that. So if you look at cricket, MultiChoice has bought exclusively all the rights. So they have free-to-air rights as well. Nothing stops eMedia from acquiring those rights as well. So they could have acquired the Rugby World Cup rights, the free-to-air rights from MultiChoice as well. We could have partnered to acquire whichever rights, whether it's the World Cup or the cricket as well. So yeah, I don't quite understand their case, but that is within the courts, and the courts will decide on that.
How are you defending it? What's your strategy as SABC?
Okay, so we are defending it. We have informed them that we're going to. Obviously, I can't speak about that, and we're very confident that they don't have a case. Yeah.
In your statement, you've apologized to cricket fans, you've apologized to the South African public. What are some of the lessons that you've learned here, and how are we going to ensure that there is a responsibility, if I can call it that, from the onus of the public broadcaster to ensure that we don't have these kinds of discussions, in the 11th hour of a World Cup, where even the Minister of Sport, Zizi Kodwa, was saying that such sports are, indicative of the culture of this country, and it's essential for a public broadcaster, as an example, or even a private entity, to make sure that these matches are viewed. Yeah.
So the responsibility is going to be with the sponsors. Right now in South Africa, I think the sponsorship value for sport is about just over 6 billion. MultiChoice has got the dominant portion of that pie. And the sponsors is going to have to say to the rights owners, no, you should not sell these rights exclusively, and you should unbundle them, and you must keep free-to-air rights separate from paid TV rights, so that we could actually reach all of South Africa, and not just a few that can afford a MultiChoice box.
Any possibility that the Competition Commission could be brought in to look at some of these disputes that we are continuously seeing?
Yes, so we have filed this complaint with the Competitions Commission 14 months ago already. They've recently delayed it until next year, so the case will be heard. And obviously the outcome of that, we believe, will be in our favor. It is best practice, it's what's happening around the world, but we wait for that to happen. I don't know if they will expedite it, given what is happening in the domain at the moment, because, as you say, we were here a couple of weeks ago with rugby, we're back here with cricket. We've got the same dispute with them with Athletics South Africa, who's given them exclusivity as well. In discussions we have been for months now for the marathons, for example. Soweto Marathon coming up now as well. We're probably going to end up again in the same situation.
All right, Ian, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it, and appreciate your time, of course. That was SABC COO Ian Plaatjes there for us. Of course, talking about the big story that's been dominating our headlines. SABC will not be broadcasting the 2023 Cricket World Cup.